Don't you just love podcasts in this world filled with sound bites where everything seems to move faster and faster? Don't you just love the fact that we can spend time talking to each other and listening and trying to understand? My name is Arne van Oosterom, and this is my exploration, really, my journey, my trying to figure out what leadership is, what creative leadership is, what servant leadership is, what is the new leadership, what is the leadership we need moving into this unknown future. Are we all leaders? Is leadership something that we can do without? I don't know. I'm talking today with Eleni Menegatou about leadership, about life-changing moments, about growing up on a Greek island and moving to the Netherlands, about our superpowers. Eleni is a senior business consultant at Zeus. She's also general manager, setting up a chapter for the Healthcare Businesswomen Association. She's very passionate about women's rights, so we'll talk about that for a bit. I was very happy to talk to her. I thought I've known her for a while, but I think she's extremely passionate and very visionary. So she's the new kind of leader. I think this is the kind of leader we need going into the future. So I hope you enjoy my conversation with Eleni. Here we go.
Looking back at what you have done and where you felt that these are the moments that I felt joy serving my clients, my team, and for me thinking about that I'm an economist by training, so when I finish, I could go anyway. Could get me something beautiful. So for me, it was very difficult to identify where do I want to focus. What's my industry? And I'm very lucky to be dedicated in healthcare and life science because it's a very interdisciplinary world, and it's also a world that you really change society because in the end of the day, what is being created is going to create life-transforming medicines. So for me, working now mainly in clinical drug development, I have found this is very important that you have different expertise. And in order to guide them through a solution, a planning, a strategy for the 10-year development of the drug, you really need to have them on board that everybody needs to contribute and create this synthesis of expertise that need to come into play to ensure that you create a safe strategy, but also safe drugs for patients. So for me, this is also where I found excitement in design thinking, because it's really like nobody taught me design thinking in the economics that I studied. It was about data analysis, decision making, policy making. So for me, it was a new kind of playground where people that they have deep expertise then can come together into a workshop and everybody contribute and create something together and be also aligned where we go, the directions we take. So this is what I feel that it really excites me. When I bring together different stakeholders with seasoned experience, and we cross-pollinate and we create something more cohesive and clear what we want to do and where we want to head to. And this is a part for, being sensitive. Also, everybody needs to be heard, understanding what you need to keep and what you need to let go. What is the priority? Because when you have also different stakeholders, you need to also to understand what do I need now? What do I need to keep? What is important? And then make them everyone agree into that, into this strategy, into this selection criteria, the KPIs, everything that might be.
And where is the Greek wisdom and warmth? Where does the Greek come into play?
I think being here as an expat, an international nomad, very much rooted with the warmth that the Greek mentality has. I have grown up in an island, so this means for me that I'm very open. I really like this personal interactions that you have with people. Leaving your place and saying 20 good mornings to everyone you see, because you know everyone. I really like my working style. Maybe lies in that. I love when I face a challenge. I need to solve a problem. To step in back and see how we can democratize a solution. How we can.
Well, there's the Greek word. Okay.
How we can think differently. So for me, Greek wisdom, this is what I think Greek have been known, is there are specific models, societal models, practices, back then dictatorship, and they think differently. There must be a better way to think about politics and create democracy. So for me, working now for years into mainly, I see the challenges that the organizations come together, different organizations with different expertise come together to create a clinical trial. I have realized the challenges of working together. And even though they have the same beliefs, they have the same goals, what has been in their way is the power, the organizational structures, the line of management, and all these things. So for me, it has been very kind of my new challenge, how I can support organizations, create this collision, so they can operate smart and fast, and having less of these conflicts of interest, financial conflicts, how they can become more one team, while they represent different interests, different backgrounds. So for me, that's why I start working a lot with design thinking to reimagine, but also with recently agile methodologies about team organizations. And this comes also into leadership. I really feel that do we need leadership, or are we here to serve or to be served? So for me, it has been a new kind of area that I want to deepen my expertise. How can we reinvent organizations? How we can reinvent ourselves as future leaders or established leaders, so we can become more united towards to make something big, not for organizations or for ourselves, for our society. And this with COVID-19, I believe it was a good start, that you start seeing organizations working together and thinking differently, because the enemy was the time.
So my mind just went to this island that you grew up. So I'm like, where? Because I like that you painted a brief image so of the island where everybody knows each other and everybody says hello to each other, and I like the way you link that to your what ended up in the idea of leadership. Could you take us back a little bit to that island where you grew up? Where was that exactly,
Yeah.
and how did you grow up? And
I grew up in Kefalonia. It's an island in the west side of Greece, close to Italy. And I think what the island has given me is strong sense of belonging, because it's a small community. You know each other, but also a lot of creativity. The creativity of the culture, the creativity of the survival. What can we do to have a good lifestyle and connect better with our society, our community. And it has given me a lot of beautiful images, as the first thing that I see from my window when I wake up is the sea. And for me, it has been always very difficult when I left the island when I was 18 to study, that I didn't have this infinity in front of me. The big mountains, the green big mountains that crash into the big blue. So, but also this has become the source of my creativity and connections to myself.
and you lived there until you were 18, and then
18.
and you went to school. But so what did your parents do?
So my parents, my mom works for tourism, so she has her own business, as apartments, villas, and my dad was making these apartments and villas for our families, but also for other business owners. So he was working in a constructor. So for me, for my parents, always was given us. I'm from a middle class family, but I was always living with abundance of that I have everything I need. I grew up, my parents always have garden and everything. So for me, I think this is what I miss in the city life, that I don't have more so close access to the nature or to my garden. This kind of, for me, is a way of grounding. And I really admire my dad also, the dedication that has always given after his work to maintain this kind of paradise in a house with everything. So for me, it's always sometimes a need. Always I see that I need to connect with this part of myself.
Mm-hmm.
But I also bring into my work.
How do you bring that? How do you bring that into your work?
Yeah, I think it's my inspiration. I live in a very fast pace, very changing environment. We all live in we go very fast, and then also the consulting life is really you need to respond very fast to the challenges, to the problems, to the solutions, to the advice that you give. And for me, it's always, what can I do differently? How can I create something that I can go to my client responsibly and say, this is the best solution you can have now? So I feel that my signature is that I have brought a lot of creativity into a very traditional sector. that I operate. And I get this creativity a lot from the freedom I have explored as a kid, to leave the house and go to the field to pick the flowers, to go to the beach and spend the whole day there. So these kind of smells and memories always, I feel, they re-energize my the fast moving way of working and responding, sensing what is needed, because you have also been exposed to the nature. I live within, an environment where you exposed to the weather conditions, you exposed to everything, so it makes you more alert, also as a person, to the sounds, the smells, the signals that you also need as a leader.
Do your parents still live there?
My parents, my brother, and his family. So I'm the outlier.
Everybody's still on the island. Do you go back often?
Yeah, I'm very close to my family, so I often travel to see them. And yeah, I miss. I think I love living in the Netherlands abroad and doing something totally different from my model. Imagine that if you live in the environment of the island, your own models are the ones who either work on the tourism, or you work in kind of very conventional jobs, like in the accountant. If I think that I'm economist, I could become an accountant or financial advisor. So for me, it was also a little bit rethinking about, do I want this? If I want to try something different, where can I go?
What was the moment that you thought, well, no, I want to do something different. I don't want to stay on the island. This is because it's going to restrict what I can do. What was the moment that you thought, no,
I think I was 22. I have, after my graduation, I have my first internship, and I was a consultant in Athens. And then for me was the tipping point where do I want to continue into this career trajectory, or I want to explore? And I felt that I wanted to explore. And I was curious. So that's why I'm here. I think curiosity brought me to the Netherlands.
But if you think about, so I'm trying to kind of figure out if there's been a moment, or there are things in your sort of, before you kind of realized that you wanted to explore. Were there any signs that were your parents surprised, for instance, or did they say, yeah, that's typical, or were they like, really, you? Or was it inside of you already? Was it kind of, were there signs that you were going to be the one leaving the island?
Everybody leaves the island, but I think the majority goes back. So
Okay.
in Greece, everybody has higher education, which is great. But this is where you need to make the big life decision, not if you're going to study, which might be for sure somewhere outside of the island, if you want higher education. But the question is, do I want to come back? And if I want to come back to the island, what I want to contribute to the island? What is the thing that I want to do to the island, to give back to the island that has raised me? Right. And I still make this question to myself. What can I offer to the island? Because it has given me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's always has been kind of conflict that I love what I do in my industry, how I have made these choices, So for me, if I want to give something back to the island, I need to change my whole life and what I serve as a person.
But it's still somewhere, it's on your mind, like, what can I give back to the island?
Yeah, I'm very proud, and I feel very fortunate that I grew up in a place like this and in a family like my family. I have received a lot of love, and this is also what I feel is really important in the way I see leadership. To give love and also to feel love by your team, by your ecosystem. So and for me, I want to do something different. I feel like, what can I do different that I don't create another, hotel or concept hotel or these beautiful things that you see on the island, all alternative tourism, all these kind of very beautiful models that I see rising now. What can I do differently that it can also make people who didn't have the opportunities I have to travel all over the world to rethink, to a little bit reshape the way the islands, the people on the island think and serve this industry. So for me, it has been a challenge, I would say, and it might be my retirement project. Who knows?
It sounds like in a way, it sounds almost like you've left the island, but actually a big part of you never left the island.
Yeah, it's part of my soul is there, and I'm very also about, we talk a lot in leadership about heroes and who is your role model. And my grandfather was a great entrepreneur, and there is a good foundation for me to have a basis that I can do beautiful things. And I have never met him, but his legacy has inspired me, and he's my reference point, because I also feel now that I get more experience and more confidence as a professional, and I realize more about myself, my superpowers, my skills, where I shine. And for me, I take a lot of energy about this entrepreneurship concept. And I'm not an entrepreneur myself, but I'm an entrepreneur within my company. And this is, for me, I try to realize, why do I have this? And of course, I see it a lot in my parents, but I took it as a granted. But my reference point is my grandfather, who did really different. He was a trailblazer, he did really different things for the island and for the standards of the island. And for me, I feel that I have been like, the story of Odysseus, who has been far away from Ithaca for 10 years, and he came back to his kingdom after 10 years of traveling. I feel that I have been in a 10-year journey that I explore, I see different things, I made higher contributions, but I always feel that I go back to my Ithaca.
I see when you're mentioning your grandfather, I see you light up.
Yeah.
That's very beautiful to see. Can you tell me a little bit more about who your grandfather was? Because I assume that he passed away.
Yeah, I've never met him, because also my grandfather had my father when he was 75.
You're oh, really, 75? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
He was entrepreneur in agriculture, so he has a really nice story. He was from a wealthy family, and he got in love with someone who wasn't approved by his father, so he start over his life from zero. So He made it. He made a very good fortune and exporting back then raisin to France and other areas in Europe. Olive oil. So this kind of offering also work for the people on the island. And he was very he had this vision and making these big like movements. He was even like suffer from the crash, the recession in 30s, and then he suffered from the World War, and then also we had a huge earthquake in 1953. So he been through these all challenges in his life, many kind of setbacks from life. And I haven't met him, but it's very interesting how my dad, from growing up in a very like rich family with island standards, he had to also himself build his life from zero, and also lose his father when he was 19. So for me, this kind of life journey has been very inspirational. Not to also give my soul to profitability, and I really like an example that you play Monopoly and you're the richest and you win, and you feel that, yes, I had the best strategy, I made the right decisions, I'm successful, and then everything goes back in the box. You know what I mean? So for me, it was also kind of I want to, the example of my grandfather, that he made so many big steps, also outside of the island, that it was his framework. He really like pushed the boundaries of the way people are thinking, but also getting the examples how many circumstances, external circumstances like the war, the earthquake, they lose their houses and all these kind of things, to make you think, okay, I'm going to do things that feel my purpose, but I'm not going to sell my soul for this, because I need to live a life with humility and joy.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I imagine that leaving the island to study. Where did you go to study?
In Athens.
In Athens. And that's probably one of the life-changing moments, right? Because you leave the island, you go to live in a big city. Very different, I imagine.
I'll connect with what I told you, because it was a big antithesis for me. So on the islands, you go out to get your bread or whatever. You go out, and everyone you see, you say hi, good morning. And for me, it was so conflicting that I had to go in a big metropolitan lifestyle, that you're next to each other, and somebody gets into the balcony and then they go directly inside the house and then don't say hi. So for me, it was very confusing about what is right, what I experienced to the islands, or this kind of, am I going to adapt to this lifestyle? It felt very, from being very open to be very isolated.
That must be very difficult.
It was very difficult. And I remember calling my dad in the first months complaining that I don't like it here. I know that I don't have many options since I want to study and I need to adapt, but I want you to know that I don't like it here.
What did he say?
Yeah, my father always say, wherever you are, make it your land. So he always gives me this advice, and also when when I came here, make sure that it's your land, it's your country. So always gives me this kind of positivity reinforcements that you need to adapt. Your land is not on Kefalonia, it's where you are. Your land means your home. You need to be present there. So don't think what you have left and what you have on the island, trying to create an island where you are.
Right. And so you studied economy, but why did you choose to be an economist? Was it I mean, sometimes it's just not. I mean, it's about the options that you know.
Yeah.
So it might be. I don't know. Was there a conscious decision? Like, yes.
It was very difficult decision for me. What I want to study, and I always thinking about that. It's a very brutal decisions that we have to make when we don't know about anything about ourselves so much. We have very specific role models around us, and we need to make these decisions for the rest of our life. At least this is how the concept, when you're at this age, is being built. Life has
so. Is that how it felt?
How it felt, but I know now that it's not how it is, because you can do everything you want. So I mean, the studies don't always define you, or you don't need to stick to that plan. So for me, I always, since I remember myself, I always want to become a doctor, because I had accidents and I had been hospitalized, and for me it became kind of these heroes, and I wanted to become one of them. But when I was at the stage of making decisions about what I really want to become, because I also felt like I have the luxury to go wherever I want, I have some role models that influenced me the most. One was my brother. I have an older brother, who was always, my best friend. And I also had a very good professor, teacher in economics back then. So that are the things that make me think that, I really want to study this, and dump the dream for becoming a doctor.
Okay. So away
as with from
healthcare heroes.
Becoming a doctor to becoming an economist.
Yeah, but so all right. So there are a couple of things that there's a connection, because you are now in the industry of healthcare, life sciences. So there's almost a full circle. But you mentioned you've been in accidents.
Yeah, I had an accident as a kid. I had concussion, so I had to be in the hospital for almost a month.
Really?
And
why? What happened?
Yeah, I was. I had an accident. I jumped from while I was playing, and then I had to be hospitalized. So, and then I kind of create these connections with doctors, because they saved my life in a way. So I always felt that, this is what I want to do. But I also agree with you. I realized that I made this decision as an economist in consultant in life science, because it connects these two needs, these two dreams.
Yeah, is that something that you were conscious of, that you still felt?
I wasn't conscious, but then at some point I felt that might be the reason why I was attracted to this industry, rather than environmental economics that I study as an economist.
Okay. Are there any more of these kind of, these life-changing moments that, because having to leave the island, going to study, you moved to the Netherlands, which must have been, again, a bit of a cultural shock, maybe. But were there any other life-changing moments that you can say, well, actually, these moments were there and they have shaped me? they kind of determined the way I do the things I do now and the way I relate to others. Obviously, the island is an important aspect of your personality and the way you relate to others.
Mm.
Are there any other moments in life that you say, well, those were really important ones?
I really see how much leadership people have influenced my decisions. So thinking why I studied economics, I was feeling really like influenced by my teacher. And then when I was working as a consultant, I was also inspired by my team and my manager back then, and their life trajectory. So this also made me want to study abroad. And also when I came here, I also met people that my professors, that they have done great contributions to the science, and I felt that, oh, I need to stay because I want to become part of this. And this has been now 10 years, which wasn't my plan. I just wanted to come here and have an international educational experience. And now I see how when you're open to life, sometimes it makes better plans for you.
As someone who came from an island, went to a big city, and then went to do an international study, what did you feel you had to? And your father's advice, obviously, was could you like make it your own land. So how did that work out for you? Was it difficult? Was it easy? Was it? Did you feel at home quickly, or did you have to change?
I think adaptability is also kind of a muscle. And I felt also I did it within the island when I changed schools, and then from the island to Athens. So for me, I was feeling a lot of confident and really ready, ripe to come here and in a new country, more international people, and different way of thinking. So I was very enthusiastic, but I can acknowledge that it was very difficult because the demands are they're very kind of, you need to adapt fast. You come here and you go into very aggressive schedule for your masters, and you don't have the time to adapt, to meet people. You just need to perform. You need to be very focused. You need to have this kind of military life. So when I came here and study, I first time see the city. Maybe I came in September, and I really explore Amsterdam in April. I start seeing, because I was so focused in my studies.
Oh, yeah.
So for me, it was like, I want to know where I am. I want to have my special understanding. What is this city? What is this country like? So for me, it became also a deciding factor that I want to stay longer in the Netherlands and take most out of this opportunity.
And you stayed for almost already 10 years. So how is the, what is your thinking about the future? Are you, is it another 10 years?
Yeah, definitely.
I see, it's like a movie. It's almost like a movie, you're going back to, I think you're going back to the island.
Yeah.
You are going back to the island somehow.
No, the island is more,
But maybe it's a metaphor.
It's a metaphor, I think.
Mm.
The island is a metaphor. I think I have created here a very nice island. I cannot see myself. This is a challenge. Going back to the island is very beautiful, because I connect with this little girl. I connect with my family. I connect with my language, my childhood friends. So it's also nice that these kind of things, when you meet your best friends from school, you just magically become this 15 years old person. But I feel that I'm so different that it's very hard for me to go back to the island life. I have changed so much that I feel that I belong more here in the way that I can express myself.
And so, and then there's this topic of women's rights. I'd like to talk about, because you are clearly very passionate about that. Where did that start? Where did it feel for you that you had to become very active in promoting women's rights? Where did that start for you?
I think it started very early from my mom. My mom is full of life and very progressive person. Always reading books about feminists, Simone de Beauvoir. And for me, it was more as a new generation. I have created a false, a wrong belief that this is an issue for 60s, when the whole feminism movement started. And I didn't, also as a young professional, I didn't face any kind of discrimination. I was very lucky to be always around, for some reason, women leaders. And I became later aware. I'm a person, because of my background, I love data. I get decisions through data. So for me, I start becoming more active and more aware when I realized that the problem is not just for my mom's generation, it's still here. And I want to take responsibility also as part of, I belong to this problem, that I need to be more active. So I hope that my generation will be impacted less by this problem, and hopefully the next generation won't talk anymore about this problem. And it's not a long time ago that women start voting, if you think about that. And now nobody can think that. We take it as a granted. Nobody talk about that. It's a fundamental right. And this is what I want to think also about women's rights around leadership, gender parity, pay gap. I really feel that what we have been doing, very soon, if we become more collective movement, we won't talk about that. And we definitely need policy making into that. As the voting became a need, and we also need policy making and realize why this is not acceptable.
Can you tell me a little bit about the sort of the things that you're doing in that regard? So with HBA and things like that, what are your what are the things that you are active in?
Yeah, so I got to know HBA through my organization, who have been very active. So I participate in one of the signature conference, and I really love the concept of connecting different generations, role models. And I realized also how women have become more active, leave the pressing issues that they have in the work to contribute to this agenda, to this movement. And I felt living in the Netherlands and always being the biggest promoter, how lucky I am to be in such a progressive society. I was very surprised that I saw that there is no much going on here, or there is no representation of this chapter like HBA here. So I took the initiative and I say, okay, we need to bring this community together and also start pushing these numbers and build something better for the next.
For people listening, can you tell just briefly what HBA is?
HBA is Healthcare Business Women Association. Is a global and local community that unites women and men in the life science and healthcare industry. We achieve our missions to advance women in leadership roles across their career trajectory through educational, networking, events, experiential training, and affinity groups, initiatives that they will support gender equality, inclusion, and diversity.
And your role is in the organization. What do you do?
I'm the general manager. So together with the board team, including you as the director of programming, we have building the movement here in the Netherlands, connecting with companies, individuals who wants to be part of our events, educations, and bring more awareness around this topic. And hopefully the vision is that very soon will be more gender, there is 50-50 representation of women in leadership positions. And equal pay for equal work. So this is our vision, and we work towards activating it.
So, because I see connections between you and the idea of I go out in the street and I say hello to the people because we know each other. This community is these connections. So I understand the sort of your need, or also your which is probably when we talked about your kind of the Greek wisdom and warmth, and I think that part of that is also that that's part of your superpowers, I guess, because you mentioned having superpowers and is making connections and creating community. Is that one of the superpowers you have, or you have more of those?
I have my superpower is definitely creativity, and I really feel that also living abroad, being here more an expat, as you call it. In this movement, there is a lot the element of the community, of the experiments that we have started, building, bringing together people who have never worked again, they don't know each other, but because they believe in the same idea and the same principles, they trust each other. So for me, it's more around the element of trust, how we can trust each other and connect. And I definitely see also the need of being active as a citizen, as a good citizen of the Netherlands. We represent with that the Netherlands. We want to make a difference in the Netherlands, and hopefully this will become a movement globally. But as a good citizens of Netherlands, I want to give back. I have taken a lot here that unfortunately my country couldn't offer me. We still have been in a financial crisis. So I know that I could have used my superpowers also in Greece, on the island, or in Athens, but I wouldn't have been excelling the way I feel here. So for me, that's why I say, of course, the island is a metaphor. I get inspiration from the islands, I get the good things of the island, but I also feel that I have been given a platform to grow my career here, and I want to give back. And for me, it's a way to give back to also the Netherlands, because I don't work specifically without something within my industry as a professional. We work together for a good, big cause.
You're clearly very passionate about women's rights, and you also connect this directly to leadership. HBA is obviously supporting women's rights and women or gender parity in leadership positions. So what kind of, first question is, what kind of leader are you?
To go back to the Greek wisdom and warmth, I think these are very iconic elements that you think about Greece. The warmth of people and the wisdom of ancient Greece. So I want to, make sure that I leave this legacy. And I don't think that I'm wise enough, but I want to be exposed to as many opportunities to connect with people that are big thinkers and become more wise by the collision of opinions and ideas. So for me, I would say, and the way I see when I work with my team and my clients, I feel that this warmth is kind of sensitivity. I want to believe that I'm a sensitive leader, and it might become as at times as weakness, because usually the model you have is like strong leadership, very powerful people. But I feel that I really like the model of servant leadership, that your in your pyramid, your team is your people, your employees are your clients. You serve your employees. You make sure that you take care of your employees, what they need, your team, and then your employees are so proud and fascinated working for you, working for your organizations, for your product, and they serve your second level, which is your second client, your customers. So for me, this has been kind of the way I want people to say about, how they see me. I'm sensitive, I protect them, I create a safe environment for them. And I don't give them the answers, the solutions they seek, but I hope that the way we work, I coach them to find the answers, to create something together.
But in a world that might be a little bit more traditional, maybe male dominated, are there any obstacles that you see, or is your leadership style, is that being supported, is it being welcomed, or what is your experience?
I feel that it's maybe the let's say the board, the board level is more dominated by men, but I have been very lucky that I work mainly with female leaders, and this also kind of attract other female leaders. So I have been more exposed to female leadership, and recognize also through myself who I am, what I like and what I don't like. And I would say my challenge as a future leader and seeing a lot of how we can redesign organizations and structures is that I cannot breathe in a very hierarchical world. And I feel that I really, I hope this really needs to change, but we are not really ready for this change. Because if we flatten the organization and the leadership style, or as we say, oops, sorry, another distraction. As we say that very, very soon enough, we won't have leaders. We don't need leaders. So this is more the model I want to work in the next 5 years. But now you can see that we have a lot of work to do. Because there are also, I feel that there is also kind of a big responsibility of being a leader and how you can use your power to people and to make decisions and what is expected from you. So I have found this very challenging, how to switch from adaptive, servant leadership, caring, empathetic leadership, all these concepts, how to be from the command to this empathetic leadership. And for me, I see that people are more open, they're changing, but the change is very slow.
But you see the change.
I see the change, and I saw it mainly now with COVID-19. Because we all saw the government leaders who made the right decisions, and also many of them female leaders, how effective their leadership was through the crisis management. So we became more aware that, oh, this also might work. And also I see also with the Trump administration how also companies are more open to new models, and there is a rise in female leadership and female CEOs. So I see a lot of progress also that we have made, but there is definitely more work to be done.
Yes, and on that note, I think we should conclude this interview, because we've been talking for a long time. I think we could talk more, but there's more work to be done, clearly, and you're one of the people who is going to do that work, and I'm very proud to also be part of that journey with you. So that's really good. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And with me, and it was very inspirational. I got some very beautiful visions of an island and your grandfather and so the journey that you went through. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Thank you very much for this, and wishing you a lot of success with meeting very inspiring leaders.